still a delay.
The delay somewhere.
This will be run live on YouTube.
Yeah, so the Zoom gets picked up and it's run on our YouTube channel.
You say anything about that? Like that?
That people know it because they're on the YouTube. Right, we're good.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of Sumter City Council to order, and we're meeting today, of course, under our emergency ordinances that were passed due to the pandemic. We always open our meetings with an invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, because we do have such a diversity in the faith communities in Sumter and the non-faith communities. We are going to give a moment of solace before we begin the prayer, the opening prayer. And today it will be given by Councilwoman Alan Dwyer, and she will also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
Okay. Heavenly Father, we come here today under some trying times, but knowing that you are with us and you will provide for us for what we need as a city, as a state, and as individuals. So Heavenly Father, we ask you to please bless and watch over the city of Sumter. Bless and watch over the leaders. Bless and watch over the hospital and those that they are mentoring to. So Heavenly Father, we know again that these are trying times, but we're going to keep the faith. And we know that above all things, you have the power. And to you, we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we ask your continued blessings and watch over us. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We need to approve the minutes of our April 21, 2020 regular meeting. Is there a motion, or do we need to make changes?
Move to approve as written.
Second.
Mr. Merchant moves, Mr. Hasty seconds that we approve the minutes as written. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And they are approved unanimously. Moving into old business, we have an update on the budget for the fiscal year 2021.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and members of council, we have Ms. Beth Reams here today, our Director of Finance, and she'll give us a little update from where we were last time.
Before you, we've got the most recent proposal. I've also placed some detail and summaries at everybody's place. We started out at a little over $1.7 million on April 7th. Made some minor adjustments, brought the difference to a little over $1.6 million. And again, we continue to review revenues and expenditures and have made further adjustments across the board in multiple departments. And now before you, the difference is $837,912. Again, we'll continue to review these. We are remaining optimistic, but we also realize that changes are going to be made further and even in this fiscal year. We are monitoring those revenues so that those adjustments can be
Mayor, to add to that, at our very next meeting, the 19th, we've got it advertised for a budget public hearing. And what we will do, we'll have the ability for the public to not only review the latest update of the budget this coming week online, but also people can make comments in writing on our website for that budget public hearing. So that's good, as well as we'll have, if people want to make it in person, down at the back of the Opera House, we'll have one at a time folks come in and they will be on the Zoom to council, just as if they were in the room with us. So all of that's been advertised. And like Beth said, what we will do is we'll continue to try to close the gap, but we would like to talk with council about a possible budget workshop to get together after our next meeting. We proposed possibly the 21st, which is that Thursday at the fire training grounds. We think we can spread out pretty well down there, as well as we're kind of holding that following Tuesday, the fourth Tuesday, if council would like, for the 26th. So 21st and 26th, depending on what suits council the best.
Any questions of Mr. McCormick? Darren, one thing people may ask about, just in case there is also members of the public listening, how do you start off, 1.7 million over and then work it down by half?
Yeah.
My understanding has always been it's kind of like, you go to all your departments, and the way I look at it is you say, what do you need to be the best you can possibly be? And then we have to decide, what do we really need and what can we afford? And we just, whittle it down until the way I've always looked at it, you never want to say, I'm just budgeting based on what I had last year, you want. So
Right. Mayor, you're right. The situation is we start really, most departments start in January working on the new budget year and what their needs, because simply stated, obviously the annual budget that's coming up is a program of work. So once council blesses it, when we are complete, it's the plan for the new year. So each department takes it very seriously to figure out how we can serve the next year. As you know, some of the costs are not within our control, so we have to make adjustments. And so I would feel very comfortable and confident saying there's no wish list involved per se. They're all needs, but we still, much like home, we still have to bring it in with what we have. So work well with what we have. So the departments have done an excellent job of working on this, as well as finances work very well to try to bring this thing into balance. So what we've been doing is just going through every budgeted area, every line item, every revenue, just kind of continuing to work on it until it comes into balance. But I think your assessment is a pretty fair assessment.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on, we have proposed final reading of ordinance 2675, which is an annexation petition related to electric drive. No changes on that, I'm sure.
None since last.
Is there a motion?
Move to consider final reading of 2675 as presented.
Second.
Archie moves, Mr. Hasty seconds. Is there discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And ordinance number 2675 is approved unanimously. Next, we have consideration of our emergency ordinance, and should I turn it over to you or to
I think Danny can do it
Mr.
better.
Crowe, our general counsel? We'll turn it over to you. Danny?
As council is aware, the governor modified some of his previous executive orders over the weekend, and those two executive orders, 30 and 31, were posted for the first time, insofar as I could determine, Monday morning. In light of those, which withdrew or modified previous executive orders, I felt that we needed to modify the renewal of this ordinance 2669, which had encouraged our citizens and businesses to follow good practices and follow the orders of the governor. So I substituted a new ordinance, which I hope you have before you for your consideration and possible vote today. That ordinance extends until May 20, our previous ordinance 2669, but supplements and amends 2669 to take into account these latest executive orders from the governor, which resulted in a slight modifications of some of the language. The governor, as you may know, changed his work or home order from being mandatory to being to urging it. So it went from shall to urged. So we needed, I thought, to change some of our language to be in accord with that. That's what I have, Mr. Mayor. Any questions from council?
Questions of Mr. Crowe? So is there any way to put this together so that it's not like the governor's, where you have to go back and read it, almost every one of the previous ones to understand what this one did?
Well, we could just have a new document. In other words, is that what you mean, Mayor?
Well, I mean, even if we pass it today, if you could just maybe something that doesn't need to be passed, just insert the changes so that you got a continuously reading.
Yes, sir. We could pass the substituted ordinance and then create essentially a document that's has been the subject of strike add, a clean strike add document, and that would be available for public review. Obviously, we could do that.
Everybody understand what I'm talking about, because we're getting now where we're saying we're supplementing this and we're adding that. So, but now we still have language in here, as best I can tell, that urges social and physical separation. Right?
Yes, sir. We've maintained that language. Yes, sir.
Mayor, if I may, for council's point of view, section 4 of what you received, the update today, the last sentence is, furthermore, operators are urged to follow all applicable social distancing and other precautions to comply with the guidelines issued by state and federal for health and safety officials. So that's the language we made sure to put in there. We highlighted that for everyone. You should have a copy of the desk.
Well, the reason I asked that was I had a conversation with some healthcare officials here, and right now we have almost as many patients with this virus in our hospital as we've had at any time. I was also told that there was testing done in Rimmer yesterday, and I was told I could give these numbers, but they tested about 100 people and they had 10 positive. And as you may know, that I think about 350 people were tested at the Civic Center yesterday, and they'll be testing again on Wednesday and Friday. So I hope that I can say with council's approval that we still encourage everybody to be very, very careful and to obey the recommended standards for separation, masking, and just being very, very careful. Because, you know, I don't know if y'all knew, but did you read the article that some company had analyzed phone records, cell phone records all over the country? And I think what they did was they compared movement of phones before this pandemic and after. And according to their assessment, Sumter and South Carolina were not doing very well at all with social distancing. So please, you know, take this seriously. If you've talked to anybody or read about anybody that's had this, even the ones that survived it, it is bad. It's nothing you want to have. And it affects everybody. There's nobody exempt. But most of the people that are dying from it in South Carolina are in that 75 year age group. But there's been one death as young as 1 month, and one as old as 105. So it hits everybody. So please, please be careful. Anybody else? Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second. We did.
Mr. Hasty moves and Ms. Dwyer seconds that we approve ordinance 2676, which can be done by one reading under our emergency ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And it's approved unanimously. Moving into.
Mr. Mayor, I'll create a full text copy and provide that later today to the clerk and the city manager and your honor.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We'll get that to each member of council. Okay, moving into new business, we have another annexation, but this is a first reading annexation. Property located on Green Swamp Road. Mr. McCormick.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of council, we have an existing business that is asking to annex into the city there. You know, it's a bit of a donut hole, so to speak, and this portion is asking to come in so they can receive city utilities and city services. So we offer that up to council for your consideration.
Any questions? Any questions?
Yes. Darren, why would they be out there so long and now just not asking to be a part of the city? I thought they were.
Yes, sir. Well, as with many places that's been around for a good while, and this business certainly has, a lot of times they may have been way out in the county at one point, and then the city over time grows to them. So now that they're contiguous and they would like the city services, sanitation, as well as the utilities, they have the opportunity to ask, and they have the need. So that's why it's just now happening.
Okay. See, if I had known that all those sausages I have already eaten, I wouldn't have done that if I known they weren't in the city.
Oh,
Now
no, they're great.
But now they're going to become a part of the city. I guess I'll continue.
There you
In
go.
fact, I just wanted them because, you know, they're right. They're almost in the heart of the city. But that's what we call the donut hole, right? That you shared with us before.
Well, the first Mayor McElveen used to say that septic tank getting bad caused a lot of annexations. I don't know if that's true here or not, but I know it is with residences.
Okay.
And expansion, you know. And,
Yes, sir.
okay, is there, we need a motion.
Move for approval.
Mr. Davis moves and Mr. Hasty seconds. Is that you, Calvin?
Yes, sir.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. And this annexation is given first reading. And then we've got another one on Wise Drive.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's several parcels all on one petition to come in. And again, these are donut holes, so to speak, on Wise Drive. So you can look at the map and see these 4 parcels. They're obviously vacant, but they will be homes probably in the future. So they would like to come into the city now so it'll make way for homes to be built there. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Move for approval of the annexation.
Mr. Davis moves, Ms. Dwyer seconds. Is there discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. And the annexation on Wise Drive is given first reading. Next, we have a maintenance guarantee. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mayor, council, you have in front of you the information on the maintenance agreement. This is for Pacala Springs Phase 5. It includes 35 lots, 27E through 41E and 55E through 74E. The back of your packet, you'll have a plat, two drawings that depicts these lots And where they're located is in the backside of Calla Springs along the edge of the swamp over on that side. Everything seems to be in order. We have looked at it. We've looked at it in the field. Everything looks good. It really looks good out there. They did a good job, the contractor has. And the letter of credit is for $32,327.10. We'd like to recommend approving the maintenance guarantee and all the attached documentation if you would like to do so. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, try to answer.
Any questions of Mr. Harris? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Dwyer moves, Ms. Dwyer seconds. Is there discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And it passes unanimously. We have completed our regular agenda. I have it advised we need to have an executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Anything before we go into executive session?
Yes, would you like to talk about the possible opening of parks in a couple of weeks? Do you want to talk about it?
Well, yeah, and this is something that we may want to give guidance on. We closed the parks, quite frankly, because we were getting information about people coming from other communities that maybe were closed down to use our parks. That was a big part of it. And because it's very hard to resist, the fields, like the baseball fields and picnic shelters. And what my recommendation is, I think, Darren, you concur in it, and the chief of police concurs as well, that we leave our parks closed until at least May the 20th. And the reason is it's just so difficult to enforce once you get people in there and things start to happen, because people are loosening up now, and it's harder to enforce this separation. But I don't know, any of y'all got any comments or thoughts on that?
Well, the 20th, Ms. Dwyer will give us a chance to meet in 2 weeks on the 19th. So if something changes, we will know. So, but at least the public will know we're looking at the 20th,
And
to try to answer your
and this
question.
could be very hard to leave them open after the governor opens everything up, and we don't know when that's going to be, but it sounds like it's coming. That would be that's what we would suggest.
Practice safety first. I need to come from the governor.
Mr. Mayor, I've had a number of people call me, and when I'm driving down the road, stop me, wondering when the Memorial Park's going to open. So I hope we don't leave it too long.
May 20, and that
May
was Darren, I think's recommendation was that we give a specific date so people would know.
I'm guessing the playgrounds and the picnic tables, like the state, will be closed, will not be available. I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the bathrooms, just you can lock them,
But I think it's safe to say we don't want to cause confusion, but if people are walking and distancing, much like they do on their roads, definitely the people who live around the park, the park can't be open for, like I said, all the things we touch, the bathrooms, the playground equipment. But I think if people are properly distanced, no one's going to have a problem with someone walking. But again, we don't want to confuse anyone. If we just thought it's better to keep them closed, and then when they're open, they're open. So
I agree. I'm just expressing some concerns that come up in my neighborhood. That's all.
Do we still have?
Nobody wants them open more than me, because I like to walk in them.
Yeah. Do we still have the requirement that no more than 3?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That's still in effect.
And that's something we need to stress, is that I think, Danny, all the governor's restrictions of that sort are still in place.
Yes, sir. There are several that are still in place, and no groups larger than 3 is one of those. Also, of course, social distancing, even for businesses that are open, those requirements are still out there. And there may be one or two others. Those are the primary.
What about folks that are on private property? I went by a property last week, I think it was. There must have been 15 people in this yard. Look like they're having a party, no social distancing, but they're on their own property.
Whether it's private or public property is not a distinction that's made in the governor's orders.
So I had the right to go on that property and try to make them separate.
I probably would call the police.
That's right, Joe. I probably would too. The next thing is concerning Memorial Day. Have we canceled the events at the base and all that stuff? That's been canceled? I guess so.
The Irish Festival is canceled.
And the air show is too.
The air show.
The what?
The air show.
Air show at Shaw Air Force Base.
I know.
Oh, they're canceled, okay. What we're thinking of doing we've canceled our event in the park as well, but we're thinking of fixing food for the military soldiers and airmen that day, and they can drive by the front of the building and we'll give them how many dinners that they may need. So we're trying to see, can we do that and still keep our social distancing and things proper, so. And that'll only be from 12 to 2 on Memorial Day, which is the 25th of May.
The park is closed.
We're not gonna be in the park.
By then, I don't know.
We're not gonna be in the park
Oh,
on Sumter Street. We ride down Sumter Street. And we know the park is closed. So we're not gonna be in the park at all.
okay. Do you want any action on the parks or just hearing it from?
I just wanted to make sure that whatever the consensus of council, we'll do it.
We're not discussing this document.
No, just for your information.
We need a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Lowry seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we are in executive session.